back in the day, well, back when I was youthful, when I had more T-zone issues.
What? You are still youthful, Gloria.
Thank you.
What do you mean not youthful? Welcome back, everybody. This is the Chemist Confessions Podcast. I'm Victoria.
And I'm Gloria.
And today we are actually entering a new realm. We are entering the acne realm of ingredients, and we are kicking off with salicylic acid.
I'm so excited about the series because as a resident dry skin person who doesn't get a lot of acne, I get to sit back and watch Victoria struggle with all her feels about all these ingredients.
No.
And cell acid is a good one to kick off with because I just feel like it's everywhere. It's super common. There's a lot to say about cell acid, but at the same time, like, why does it get touted as a miracle acne ingredient about every 5 years or so?
Yeah. So we're going to just drag y'all on this acne journey, this cell acid journey. But first, we have to do a little bit of a intro or a review for most of you guys. You guys probably already know this because y'all are skin nerds, but fun fact, salicylic acid, you guys hear of as the BHA. But technically, if you want to get like super orgo on this, it's not really a beta hydroxy acid. The thing is, if it was a beta hydroxy acid, it would be basically two single bonded carbons away from the carboxylic acid group. However, salicylic acid's hydroxy group will put the molecule up here. You can see that essentially it's a benzene ring attachment away. So kind of not really technically, but we're just going to say that because, what the theory is that with the popularity of AHAs, it only makes sense that BHAs just lumps right under that. And that's just what's stuck with cell acid. And I guarantee if you try telling people any of this, you're just going to get a big old eye roll. Like no one's going to care. So
maybe some of you are eye rolling at us right now, but we just have to nerd out with you guys a little bit.
Yeah, you guys are the ones that would appreciate this, right? So let's all just, y'all are in it now. But okay, long story short, cell acid has a unique property in that it is slightly lipid soluble. And it's for that reason that it's able to interact with our epidermal lipids and even reach the sebaceous gland, which is truly the focal point of a lot of the acne pathogenogenesis. So that's why it's always gets tied to oily skin and acne. It is a keratolytic. It has also been tied to even things like sebum reduction. Mm-hmm. But there's a huge but, and this big but is what I keep harping on and complaining about with Gloria, and that is most of the data in the salicylic acid realm actually lies in salicylic acid peels, and this is why it is so painful because it's a very large category of clinical data. These peel levels are of the levels of around 30%. You'll hear of these. They're called things like Jesner peels. And that is where a lot of those claims can really come from. And I think that plus the fact that cell acid is an OTC ingredient is why it feels like cell acid claims are kind of just, they've gone a little crazy. They've gone off the rails here.
Yeah, and I will say a lot of acne topicals like BPO and more recently adapalene at the 0.1% level, they can be a little bit more difficult to work with than salicylic acid. So it's almost like from a product perspective, if you are like, I need to put an acne product, but I only have 4 months to produce a product, let me sprinkle some cell acid in there.
Yes.
So it's like kind of that lazy acne ingredient that can be easy to formulate. And I have to say, I understand it. From my perspective, I think it's like a double-edged sword, right? Sometimes you get really cool, like newer age acne product with interesting data. You might hear of phages or like other random extracts that's shown fantastic results on acne. But legally, you can't claim acne. So let me sprinkle some salicylic acid in there. Then the whole product is acne. But then the issue is on the flip side, you also have the super lazy product that's like, I just need an acne launch. Let me just sell acid and call it a day. And it just becomes very confusing as a category.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's exactly why it has made every acne user feel like they must have salicylic acid in their routine.
Yeah.
So this is I guess we should get to the question we want to answer today. And the main question that you guys had for us around this ingredient, that is, does salicylic acid treat my type of acne? And the question really is, what kind of acne can it actually help? And that's a great one that we're going to try to answer in the next segment. But before that, let's take a quick breather. Speaking of salicylic acid, we have to talk about our very own beloved treatment, the Specialist. This year, Specialist has become one of the most popular of our AHA treatments, and we're finally happy that people really appreciate this combination of actives. It comes with 2% salicylic acid, 18% Mandelic Acid, a responsible amount of niacinamide at 5% to tackle all of your oily and skin congestion woes.
This booster can be used 3 ways in your routine. You can either choose to add a drop to your nightly serum for general upkeep, or use as a weekly rinse-off mask for the minimalists out there. Last but not least, you can use this as a spot treat for your congestion zones. I myself have dry skin and I'm not very acne prone, but I love using it on my blackheads. So give the Specialist a try, and for all you podcast listeners, please don't forget your coupon code CCPodcast2024 for 15% off. All right, Victoria, I'm ready for this $1 million questions. Just what kind of acne is salicylic acid good for, and must I have salicylic acid in my routine?
Okay, fine. Okay, the best way we felt like we could answer this was to just go through some testing, because ultimately that can give us an idea of, what kind of subjects, what's the best outcome for these subjects, and you'll see why. So we're going to start off with a clinical that was done by Obagi. This was an old clinical, but I think it is quite insightful. What they wanted to do was see if their routine, the Obagi routine, could compete with a BPO antibiotic combination. Now, the study is a nice size. It's 139 subjects. But the subject pool and the types that they're looking for, I think, are pretty interesting. So the subjects that they tested were anywhere between the ages of 12 to 45.
That consent form must be crazy.
Yes, but so young. They are looking for anybody with mild to moderate facial acne. And for those of you wondering, is my acne mild? Is my acne moderate? Let me tell you. So what that equates to is 10 to 100 non-inflammatory lesions, 17 to 60 inflammatory lesions, and less than or equal to 2 nodulocystic lesions. That's like cystic acne. And if you're wondering, what does that then mean? I got you there too, because non-inflammatory lesions are your comedones. So this can be anything from a whitehead to a blackhead. They're generally just the bumps. But inflammatory lesions are simply the bumps, but they are red and tender. Okay, so hopefully there's that difference there. And then finally, if you're wondering what cystic acne is, these are your deeper fluid-filled lesions. These feel like they're not visibly at the surface. They feel like they're like much deeper. And for anyone that has cystic acne, they'll know. You'll just know. It just feels like it will never come to the surface. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what mild to moderate facial acne means. If you're wondering, does that mean I have to count my acne? I will tell you that, in terms of this is where you can consider going to a derm, because that's what in fact they do to keep track of how acne is improving over time. So that's the best way, is just generally keep account of where your breakouts are, how many there are. Okay. So now you know, mild to moderate acne, 139 subjects, ages 12 to 45. Now the regimen. They had the regimen be used for 10 weeks. And this is why we think this clinical is interesting. The first regimen, Obaji's regimen, includes a 2% salicylic acid cleanser twice daily, okay, a 2% toner once daily, and a 5% BPO gel twice daily, okay? The second one uses a simple control cleanser with no active, and a 1% clindamycin plus a 5% BPO gel that is used twice daily. Okay, so that is the two scenarios they're competing with. And
so the main difference here is is in the cell acid group, there's the 2% the cleanser, the 2% the toner, but no antibiotics. It's almost like pitting it directly against the clindamycin. Pretty much.
And I think the other thing I think it's important here is, yes, it's not only testing sal acid, but it's testing a lot of sal acid in conjunction with other actives, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's still, there can be some takeaways here. Okay. Participants are given the same moisturizer, same sunscreen to use. So really the acne regimen is the only difference here. And we'll put the results up here. These are the results that they show the mean change from baseline for both inflammatory and non-inflammatory acne. And ultimately, they did see that there was a greater reduction in non-inflammatory lesion count with a 27% reduction by week 2 and a 40% reduction by week 10. Okay. And then in terms of inflammatory lesions, it was comparable between the two regimens. And the thing I think that's interesting here is that despite what you would consider to be a pretty, or I would consider a heavier sal acid routine, just note the reduction levels by week 10. They still only saw a 40% reduction. And I think the thing I wanted to show here was that this is in conjunction with BPO. So if you imagine what that would be like if it was solely sal acid, it clearly shows that you still need some of these main acne heavy hitters to really have a significant effect for these mild to moderate acne breakouts.
I was going to say, I was wondering, like, a 40% reduction, is that it's significant and it will be visual, but is that what people, I feel like everyone wants, I don't think people will consider a 40% reduction, oh, my skin has cleared up, you know?
Yes, and I think that is exactly the point, Gloria. It's, and I'll show the before and after pictures that they did take. They definitely, you can see they used Visia photos here. There's clearly a marked improvement, but what's interesting is with acne, I think we're used to hearing like those clean and clear claims, those like 24-hour, you know, breakout like eliminators, you know, you're expected this really quick turnaround time. And I think because of that, people don't realize or just forget that breakouts are not something that can just be eliminated in a couple weeks. Acne breakouts is a long game here. You're trying to improve with every breakout. And so I think this is a really good realistic scenario of what acne improvements look like. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay. And the other thing that I think Gloria would appreciate, because sal acid is something that she and myself sometimes have this issue, is like our skins don't always tolerate sal acid well. So they also performed a tolerability assessment, and they looked at things that included erythema, dryness, peeling, burning and stinging, and itching. And I think we'll also share these results here. You can see that. All right. So in terms of erythema, peeling, and dryness, both regimens were comparable. They all had some light pinkness that occurred on skin, which is like generally noticeable erythema, slight roughness, slight peeling. That was all normal in week 1. And you can see that all sort of levels out after that. In terms of burning and stinging, the sal acid BPO regimen was significantly higher at all time points except for week 10. And that results in a light, warm, tingling sensation. And I think, and I think what's interesting here is to show how basically it takes about 1 to 2 weeks to start feeling like skin's really acclimating. So I thought that was kind of a nice example of onboarding acne actives.
I just feel like sal acid is so common, and it's one of those like such whatever actives that people don't think of as a potential irritant of any sort. And I think a lot of brands straight up will position it as like a very mild miracle worker. But I think sal acid is one of those ones I swear is very skin type dependent. And it doesn't mean like, oh, you have sensitive skin, therefore you may. I think it's like a type of person that your skin is either reacted to sal acid or it's not. On me, it's drying. It can be very drying. I use a specialist directly on my nose for my blackheads, and it's a perfect spot treat. It works really well, but I can't use it more than 2 days in a row, or else my nose area will start peeling, and I won't see it with even high levels of glycolic acid. So it's a very specific response to sal acid. And I have used sal acid toners before that end up making me kind of like this paper. It ended up making me feel just a little sensy in general. Like afterwards, if you layer other stuff on it, it just feels like a little, just very mild tingling sensations, which I don't get from other ingredients. So sal acid, it's not your imagination if you're like, I don't know about this. I think my skin is flaking, but they say sal acid is mild. It's milder than BPO, right? It just kind of depends on your skin.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly that. And you'll see as we go through a couple other studies, like it's kind of similar in that sense. There was another one that's done, and I cannot tell you why they did it this way, but another clinical study looked at testing basically a clindamycin BPO. So it's 1% clindamycin, 5% BPO. They wanted to see what would happen if they added a 3%, why 3? I don't know, 3% sal acid product. So they split about 50 subjects into 2 groups. So one got simply the clindamycin BPO product. The other group got the clindamycin BPO plus the 3% sal acid product. And for this group, I just wanted to mention that the ages was between 18 to 35, a little bit more narrow. Similar, mild to moderate acne, so 10 to 50 inflammatory lesions, 10 to 100 non-inflammatory lesions, but no cystic acne here. And I thought that was interesting because cystic acne is very much like a next level scenario. So maybe that might explain some of the results to me. This is where I was found it a little bit surprising. So they had people use this combination twice daily for 12 weeks here. And I'll put the results up here. They did the same thing where they looked at non-inflammatory and inflammatory lesion counts. And you can see that they actually found a 94.7% reduction in non-inflammatory lesions and a 93.2% reduction in inflammatory lesions. And I was like, that is starkly different than the last one we were talking about.
Oh, that does feel like skin's almost clear, but I am mildly suspicious.
Yeah, so it's wildly different here. I think for me, how I looked at this is I also, in comparison, ultimately this is about sal acid. It was significantly better than just BPO and clindamycin. Clindamycin, that combo alone, they saw 81% reduction in non-inflammatory. They only saw a 73% reduction in inflammatory. So hopefully that gives you some numbers to compare to here. But overall, those numbers are way higher than the previous study.
Well, maybe it's a luck of the draw. Maybe it's a formula. I don't know.
They also looked at tolerability here. I did want to mention that for both groups, the sal acid group, they actually had 87.5% of them had experienced side effects, while 82.6% experience side effects for simply the antibiotic and BPO group. If you look at the results, you will see that the salicylic acid group experienced a much higher amount of dryness, healing, erythema, and burning. So, again, as Gloria was saying, I know salicylic acid gets positioned at gentle, but again, concentration matters here. And at the 2% mark, we can clearly say that can be aggressive for some skin types.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel so validated. And I always feel like I understand that people who went through a lot of acne in their teenage years or whatnot, they're used to treating their skin a little bit more harshly. You know, you do the scrubs, you keep your skin super dry, and then you use the retinoids and whatnot. So comparatively, I feel like salicylic acid usually just flies under the radar. Like people just think that it can be bad. There's like 1,000 other things that can be causing dryness. But also in terms of management, salicylic acid, especially if you're using a cocktail treatment, we'll get into that a little bit later too. It's just one of those things that, hey, if you're having a hard time reining everything in, consider just using a lower dose of salicylic acid, and that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, and that's just the perfect summary of these, two clinicals. First of all, very difficult to find simply 2% salicylic acid clinicals out there. But I think these clinicals show that there's no way you're going to only use salicylic acid alone to treat acne. That we know. But the second thing is salicylic acid is also can be helpful to a routine. But just know that it may come with certain side effects, and that's just something to keep in mind. And, the issue with not having enough testing is it's possible that maybe at a lower percentage, who knows what kind of results you might see, and it might fare better in terms of tolerability in the long term. So those are kind of all the feelings I had when trying to talk about salicylic acid and who it's good for, okay? Ultimately, mild to moderate acne, this is definitely worth your consideration. Just know amount, know the frequency. These people are using it twice a day in a pretty aggressive routine. And then just know kind of, manage your expectations and know that this is not going to be the one thing that's going to eliminate all of your breakouts. So
I have a question for you.
Go for it. I'm ready.
Do you use salicylic acid in your routine?
So I use it. I do use our specialist on breakout days. And I will say post-baby acne is different. Like I feel like my breakout scenario, my skin doesn't, I feel like my whole body is still trying to find normal. So I don't really know what it wants. I've actually felt like I've had more body acne than even face acne lately. I do use it when I am actively trying to tackle breakouts. But if I am not, that is not my preferred AHA. So that's my feels. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Hope that was helpful. That was a lot of data. I'm still mystified by why 3%. That almost seems like someone found it a little baggy and was like, this is about 3%. We're going to test 3%.
I mean, maybe they looked at the 2% realm and were like, maybe increase it higher?
Yeah, 2% doesn't do anything.
I don't know. Yeah. So, hopefully that was helpful. We're going to sum all this up in the last section in terms of how to go about it in your routine, but we're also going to talk products because there's just so many out there. But let's take a break. All right. This is your animal fun fact trivia of the day, and today we're just in it for the animal biology theme. We're just in it. All right. So today I've decided to go a different direction. I've decided to, for some reason, my Google search history, you will now find that it says, what are some weird animal feet? Like,
So after a week in parasitic tongues, we're like, okay, feces.
Yeah, we're into feces, guys. Okay. So, all right. So today I want to talk about the basilisk lizard.
Yo, Google must think you're so weird. Like,
Weird.
why are you searching for animal feet?
I'm about to get sent some really weird foot fetish stuff. I'm scared. All right. So we're talking about the basilisk lizard. It is found in Central and South America. The reason why is it was clickbait for me because people actually nickname it the Jesus lizard. I'm going to share, Gloria, there is a YouTube video you should watch, and it says, of this lizard's ability to run on water. I think, Gloria, one thing I'm going to say is about the basilisk lizard is I feel like we all have that friend that runs like this. I don't know if you feel that way.
It's so true.
Cool. So the Jesus lizard, what they do is, first of all, their back feet are very interesting. It's got a very long, like, toe scenario. And what they do is they gather sufficient momentum to basically run across the water for a brief distance to run away from predators. This phenomenon has actually been studied pretty well in terms of a science. It's quite cool. What happens is these large hind feet, they have these like scaly fringes on the sides of their third, fourth, and fifth toes. What happens is when they jump and try to run on water, this kind of scaly fringe is able to trap air bubbles underneath. And that kind of helps give them that lift. And there's 3 motions that it has to do. First, it has to, and this is not my words, this is their words. First is the slap, the downward movement of the foot that pushes water out of the way from the leg. This
Plap,
also
plap.
creates, plap, plap. This also created pockets of air around the foot. Then next is the stroke, the backwards movement of the foot, which propels it forward. And next is the recovery, when the foot is able to come up out of the water quickly to be able to slap again. That's the description. I didn't make this up.
Plat, 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 plat.
Yeah, so the idea of like your feetsies on water, just that sound, plap, 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 just imagine that as the lizard.
You know,
runs
I'm
across
gonna
water.
tell this to my 8-year-old nephew, who I'll bet will try this at the next public pool he goes to.
Please share the video. That would be great. And that is the Jesus lizard.
Yay, Jesus lizard! That's a good one. No parasites. I like that.
Yeah, so I'm sure everybody is enjoying this animal biology, right?
You're welcome.
All right, let's wrap this up. Let's just talk about how to use for your acne routine. But first things first. If you are actively trying to tackle acne, the data is around using 2%. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The typical time points that these clinicals are looking at is anywhere between roughly 10 to 12 weeks. So does take some time. And it makes sense because ultimately you want to see that improvement after like a complete cycle of the breakout. Basically, you want to see in the next cycles how is acne improving. So that's the best way to get a full picture of that. In terms of how frequently it should be used, now clinicals, they look at it, they're using it twice daily. But ultimately, Gloria and I feel like it really depends on your goals here. Like we had been discussing before, if you're actively trying to tackle, if you end up using up to twice a day, that's totally fine. However, it is about what is your skin trying to tell you? Is the dryness, are you able to tolerate it? Okay, it's totally okay to lower that frequency and even lower the concentration if needed.
Yep. And I think something else to add here is that I do think a lot of people's acne routines are definitely the maximalist approach where use everything and use everything twice daily. I do think that salicylic acid has a place in people's routine, but you really don't have to punch for that highest everything. Like in that one clinical Victoria shared, even though they have a salicylic acid cleanser and a salicylic acid toner, especially if you have other actives, consider just picking one product with salicylic acid.
Totally. And then finally, let's talk about some products in the space. How to put this nicely? I have a very hard time choosing between salicylic acid toners, if I were to be very honest. I think that they all feel generally about the same. And so if I were to really give a suggestion on how to choose, you don't have to, if you're trying to just experiment and see if skin likes it, you don't need to go for the most expensive salicylic acid toner. You don't have to go for a Paul's Choice here. You can consider something like The Ordinary's 2% solution, just to even just trial it in your routine and see how that works.
I think I also, as someone who doesn't have acneic skin, back in the day or like during pockets of time when I feel like my skin is a little bit more congestion prone. Nowadays, my skin is like pretty tame. I only need to spot treat my blackheads, but back in the day, back when I was youthful, when I had more T-zone issues.
What? You are still youthful, Gloria.
Thank you.
What do you mean not youthful?
Successful fishing attempt successful. But I do feel when
I personally, that's a personal attack on my age. Like we're the same age. You attack me by saying
You're
that.
right. You're right. The same back in my day when I had more T-zone issue, when it's like a bigger area where my skin was a little bit more combination rather than true dry skin that I have now. I prefer actually using it in a wash because it makes me so dry and sensy. I don't even love the toners. Like a very basic salicylic wash to me is like okay maintenance. And me personally, because my skin tolerates glycolic acid really well, so in terms of the chemical exfoliation mechanism, I actually turn to that more than, like I know some people only have salicylic acid as their chemical exfoliant, which doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And so we would consider, let's say, like a Paula's Choice, their BHA exfoliator, and The Ordinary. These are probably in similar categories. They are just no frills. Salicylic acid is the main focal point here. The pharmacy has a little more. They clearly try to go for, maybe a few extracts that can bring that kind of soothing aspect as well. There's arginine in that one. This is how we generally feel salicylic toners are organized. You're going to have ones that are truly just no frill salicylic acid, and you're going to have your 2% salicylic acids toners that come with maybe a few extracts and certain like soothing actives or hydrating actives. And so I think that's kind of how we would split this category up for you guys. Yeah.
I think for me, this category is also so wide that once in a while, we'll run into a product that makes us roll our eyes a little bit. And those are the ones that kind of almost over jazzify salicylic acid as an ingredient.
Gloria, tell us about that one that you seem to have in mind.
My feels. Well, recently we saw that InBeauty has a product InBeauty has an acne serum that they claim to be it's FDA approved medicated acne serum with salicylic acid. It has 1.5% salicylic acid, and then they threw in other stuff like 2% niacinamide, 2% tranexamic acid, some extracts and stuff. The reason why this claim makes us roll our eyes a little bit is it's one of those like technically not incorrect but also very misleading claim because salicylic acid is FDA approved OTC, which means salicylic acid products are on the market are FDA approved. It just makes it seem like they went out of their way to get to get salicylic acid registered and approved by FDA. That is not what happened here.
Yeah, and the other thing too is you don't have to look for a medical grade or medicated version of salicylic acid. It's all the same. Okay, so this is where we're kind of like, we get it. Salicylic acid market is very saturated, but we don't have to worry about like the efficacy and whether or not it's like medically efficacious versus cosmetically efficacious here. That term doesn't really, it doesn't mean much here. So yeah, so we would say this is a good example of maybe claims that you don't really have to pay attention to. We didn't really cover it in this one, but we did want to give out a shout out to La Roche-Posay. They actually did do a clinical that's academically published on the results of their salicylic acid. So that would be one we would definitely recommend checking out. But all in all, ultimately, we hope that this is at least helpful in understanding what salicylic acid can do for your acne scenario, how to use it, also what to expect in terms of how it can help, and maybe how some of these marketing claims can almost seemingly overpromise. In Beauty's acne serum, they have a claim that says clears acne in 1 day. It's very general. It's not tied to any testing, but this is one of those claims that you'll commonly see. And Beauty is not the only one that does this.
Yeah.
That we recommend to look further, because then you'll see that what they're actually trying to say is that after 24 hours, it says reduces the excess oil production and the look of red swollen bumps. That's the claim that I believe they're actually testing for. So I think this is where that's one of the classic acne claims out there that I feel like always gets people, that it's always when you're in a pinch and you really want to get rid of that really inconvenient breakout at an inopportune time. And I feel like that is the claim that preys on everybody, including myself. So just want to put that out there.
I definitely understand why people gravitate towards that claim. And it's just like, I feel like it sets up very unrealistic expectations. And also at the same time, I know like acne people have gone through like product after product trying to find the one, but it also sets up a slightly, I don't know, I feel like it doesn't teach people to give it time and stay consistent.
Yes.
I know so many kids in their teenage years, they just bounce from product to product. Sometimes they only use a product for a week and they're like, this is garbage, it doesn't work. Let me find the next TikTok fad to see if it will work. Exactly. And it's just like such a shame because it still takes a good foundational routine to really tackle it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And on that note, couldn't put it better myself. That's the end of the salicylic acid episode.
Yay! All right. Well, this has been fun. So if you have any more burning questions, you can write to us at info@chemistconfessions.com. You can DM us on Instagram at chemist.confessions. That is also where we poll you for your questions on these ingredients and topics. So definitely check us out there. And last but not least, you can find us on our website at chemistconfessions.com. And we'll see you all next week. Bye! Bye-bye!